يا من يرى ما في الضمير ويسمع أنت المعد لكل ما يتوقع يا من يرجى للشدائد كلها يا من إليه المشتكى والمفزع يا من خزائن رزقه في قول كن أمن فإن الخير عندك أجمع ما لي سوى فقري.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا مزيدا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد إن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. ثم أما بعد، فأهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بالجميع في أول درسنا أو لقائنا في دراسة هذا العلم الجليل المبارك ألا وهو علم السلوك أو علم الزهد. Welcome to everybody with ta'ala to this first meeting or this first gathering wherein we will be studying or reading and looking at the knowledge of as-Sulūk or the knowledge of az-Zuhud or asceticism. And before we actually begin with the small short treatise we're going to be reading this Ramadan with ta'ala and hopefully continuing on reading treatise regarding this beautiful knowledge, we want to talk about this knowledge and what it is and what it means in a very brief way, in a brief form with ta'ala. So ilm as-Sulūk, this is some of the oldest terminologies we have for this science, the science of self-purification, the science of self-discipline, the exercising of the ego, the medicating of the soul. And so this knowledge that is an old knowledge, which is its roots are in the Quran and in the Sunnah, right? This is the oldest term that we have as far as we know for this science. It's called ilm as-Sulūk or az-Zuhud. Az-Zuhud, ilm as-Sulūk or az-Zuhud. Zuhud is translated as asceticism in English. So the science of asceticism, or which means, of course, it's a type of a renouncement of worldly life, which is not exactly the correct understanding in Islam. Because in Islam we don't just renounce the world. That's not how Islam teaches the human being to be. Rather, asceticism in its correct understanding, zuhud, right, which is to abstain from something, to do something less. Zahada or zahida, yazhadu, right? فهو zahid, right? This word in Arabic, it means to take little from something, all right, or to lessen in a specific action or a specific type of behavior, or to lessen in a certain type of indulgence, whether it's food or drink, or it's socialization, whatever it may be, or socializing, I should say, right? to lessen in that, we say in Arabic that he did the action of zuhud. Okay, so for example, in Arabic we would say zahida zaydun fil akl. Right? We say Zayd zahida fil akl. He did the action of zuhud regarding eating. And what that means is that he took very little. Right? Zahida fil akl, meaning he says, you say that he took a little bit from it. He didn't take as much as other people. Okay? And in the Quran we have an example of that when Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam was found in the well. Okay? And people were the caravan that found him from Egypt, right? When they wanted to pay a ransom or a price for Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah describes what they paid. He says, وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. And meaning basically the gist of what is being said here is that they didn't spend a lot of money on him. So we have this meaning also exemplified in the Quran, and in other places in the Quran as well, and in the Sunnah. Inshallah, we get to it, right? Ala kulli hal. So the concept of zuhud is a understood concept, and it's a meaning that is very quaint to the signs of being detached from the world to a certain degree, right? فضول الدنيا, I mean فضول الدنيا, from the gluttony and from the extravagance, right, of the world, and to be disassociated and unattached to possession and gathering from these possessions. So this is understood. Zuhud and asceticism in English is a word that is a good approximation. However, what is suluk? Ilm as-Sulūk. This word or this term refers more to the practical and the practicality of the science of zuhud. Right? Zuhud in action, we call that suluk. And the idea of this word, suluk, which comes from the trilateral root salaka, sin, lam, and kaf. The idea is to be on a path, right? So salaka means to set out on a path, right? And in the Sunnah, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said in the Hadith Sunnah Tirmidhi, he said, "Man salaka tariqan yaltamisu fihi ilma, sahhala Allahu lahu tariqan lil jannah." Or kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam, he said that whoever sets out on a path seeking therein knowledge, then Allah will make easy for him the path to paradise. And so the word used by the Prophet ﷺ is man salaka, whoever sets out on a path. Whoever sets out on a path, man salaka tariqan. Okay, so so we call a maslak. A maslak is a path that you take, right? A maslak is in Arabic is a path that you take, right? The one taking that path is called salik, right? He's called a salik. The person who's embarking on that path or on that journey. So the maslak is the way, the salik is the one on that way, right? Suluk is how the person is on that path. The suluk of a person is how they carry themselves while they're on that path. Okay? So the suluk is a word for example, as if another word for it you could say is adab, mannerisms, okay, characteristic, khuluq. You can call it, maru'ah, decorum. These are all words in English and in Arabic that are synonymous and related to suluk, right? So the idea here and how it's related to the spiritual tradition of Islam, the ascetic tradition of Islam, is that the reason why this word was used to describe this knowledge and this way is because the idea is that a human being is on their way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That they're moving towards, from the moment of their birth towards their death, towards their eventual meeting with Allah Jalla fi'ula, right? So Allah asks a question, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ, right? And to where are you headed? To where are you going? And Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentions in different places and in different ways the answer to this question, right? وَإِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الْمُنْتَهَى, and into your Lord is the end of all things. Right? إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. To Allah we belong, and to Allah we will return. And so the reason why the scholars use this word suluk or salik or ilm as-Sulūk, the knowledge of being on a path, is because it's the knowledge of how to be, right, on this journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And it encompasses a lot of different things. It encompasses your how you are physically, right, and how you are spiritually. And this is why the great scholar Shaykhul-Islām Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah rahimahullah, the student of Shaykhul-Islām Ibn Taymiyyah, al-Allāmah Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he wrote a beautiful book, one of the most beautiful books I've ever had the pleasure of reading, and I didn't even finish it, to be honest with you. It's such a substantive work. Every time I read it, it's heavy to read. When I was in Medina, even a couple of friends of mine, we tried to read the book together, and it was a lot. It's very heavy because he impacts the Quran and he impacts the Sunnah in such a way that it becomes so accessible. Anyways, it's a great book. And he entitled it Tariqul Hijratain. Tariqul Hijratain, the path or the way of the two migrations. The path or the way of the two migrations. And in this book, he describes this suluk or this path that we're on as a double-pronged path. Hijrah, it's a migration. It's a migration from the world to Allah Azza wa Jal. And so he says that the path of the two migrations, meaning the migration of the body and the migration of the soul. Right? That's one of the ways that he explains it. Rahimahullah ta'ala rahmatullah wasi'ah. So this ilm or this knowledge of suluk, of self-purification, or the knowledge of how to be on this path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is an old knowledge. And it's a knowledge that it's mustamid, it's taken from, and its essence is in the Quran and the Sunnah. Of course, unfortunately, as the Prophet ﷺ predicted would happen, the Ummah after some time began to deviate and began to split, and many of the disciplines of Islam were affected by outside traditions, and ilm as-Sulūk or az-Zuhud was not one of them that was safe from this, right? So a lot of things were added and subtracted to this beautiful knowledge, and terminologies were invented, which is not exactly the problem. However, they were obscure, they were not precise, and they were ambiguous, like the word tasawwuf. Right? The word tasawwuf, which is usually, unfortunately, in the West associated with the spiritual aspect of Islam. Tasawwuf came about already. This terminology came about already when the knowledge of az-Zuhud, the ilm of az-Zuhud was being infiltrated and being corrupted, and we had great scholars of our past, as early as some of the younger Sahaba, like Abu Dharr al-Ghifari radiyallahu anhu, great students of the scholars of the Sahaba, like al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala, right? And Sa'id ibn Musayyib and others who wrote about this. Abul Qasim Junaid al-Baghdadi rahimahullah, and others who were scholars of Sunnah, Imams of Sunnah, people who wrote hadith and they made naql of hadith, transmitted hadith. Famously, Junaid al-Baghdadi, as is mentioned by Imam al-Dhahabi in Sir Alam Nubula, he mentions من لم يقرأ القرآن ويكتب الحديث فليس منا. He said, أو كما قال رحمه الله, he said, the one who does not read the Quran and study the Quran, and the one who does not write down the hadith, right, then he's not from us. Meaning that he's not from this, not from us. He's not from those who sit on this path and who delve into the knowledge of self-purification, right? Because the essence of it is the Quran and the Sunnah, right? And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions this process of self-purification in the Quran after taking several oaths, somewhere around 10, right? Or 11 or 12 oaths in the Quran, right? It just shows us how important this ilm is, and the importance, how important it is to purify ourselves and to cleanse our souls and to cleanse our hearts. He says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. Sorry, He says, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا. Right? So He says, وَالضُّحَى. He swears by the breaking of the day. وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ. Sorry, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. He swears by the sun and the breaking of the day. وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. Right? وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا. And by the sun, then He swears by the moon as it follows the sun. Right? وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا وَالسَّمَاءِ وَمَا. So there's about 8 or 10 oaths that Allah, He swears. And then after that He says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Right? Verily, surely the one is successful, he who zakkaha, he purifies his soul. And then He says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And he's ruined, the one, or he is khaba, meaning the one, he is deceived, he is in a state of ruin, man dassaha, who dirties and sullies and pollutes his soul. So after taking around 10 or 11 oaths, right, in Surah Al-Duha, okay, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions this point, right? After swearing 10 or 11 oaths, He says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Right? The one who purifies his soul, he is successful. And the one who sullies and pollutes his soul, then he is in a state of loss. Right? He's in a state of loss. He's lost. Right? And of course the Quran is filled with the mention of self-purification, and so is the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi as-salatu was-salam. But in the interest of keeping these classes short, inshallah, we won't go on into too much detail regarding the minute details of the meanings of these words. Although it's a lot of fun to do, because it really opens up the understanding of this of whatever you're studying, whether it's hadith, whether it's fiqh, whether it's aqidah, whether it's tafsir, whether it's suluk or zuhud. Understanding what these words mean when you use them in their root meanings is really, really interesting. It's a lot of fun, and like I said, most importantly, it really enriches your understanding of the subject. Right? Now, the treatise that we're going to be reading regarding this beautiful knowledge is the great work of the great Imam Shaykhul-Islām Taqī Abul Abbās Ahmad ibn Abdil-Ḥalīm ibn Abdil-Salām ibn Taymiyyah al-Ḥarrānī rahimahullah ta'ala, right? It's one of the most foundational works. It's such a short treatise that he wrote. However, viciously beneficial, extremely beneficial. And the book centers around around two concepts. Okay, he entitles his book قاعدة في الصبر. The treatise is entitled قاعدة في الصبر. That's how it's mentioned. Okay, and it translates to a principle regarding patience, a principle, okay, or a fundamental or a foundation regarding patience. And the treatise revolves around the centrality of patience and gratitude, and the centrality of patience and gratitude as they relate to Īmān. And we are now in the beautiful month of Ramadan. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to accept it from all of us and to make it a beneficial Ramadan for all of us. So I thought that it would be quite quaint and appropriate to read about patience while we're fasting and withholding from all sorts of evil. We're withholding from that which is halal, food and drink. We're withholding from even what we're withholding our eyes, we're withholding our ears, hopefully withholding our tongues. And so the nafs is weak. The nafs is already weakened because the body is weak, right? The veins are dried, right? There's the famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that you all know, hopefully ta'ala, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, inna shaytani yajri fi ibn Adam majra ad-dam, right? Or kama qala alayhi salatu, that verily the shaitan or the shayateen, the devil, he runs through the child of Adam, right? Like blood runs through him or her. And then there is another wording of this hadith, although it is weak, there's weakness to this wording. He says, فَضَيِّقُ مَجْرَاهُ, right? بِالْجُوعِ, right? أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم, right? And so he says like I said, this wording here, additional wording, there's weakness to it, although the meaning is correct. He said, so to restrict, right, the paths of the shaitan with hunger, okay, with hunger and with thirst. Okay, so restrict the paths of the shaitan, meaning in your veins, in your blood, in your body, by restricting those paths by, being hungry and by being thirsty. Now, obviously, like I said, this wording has some weakness to it, but the meaning is not incorrect. Okay, if it's understood in a balanced way, obviously, nobody is saying, the Prophet is not saying for us to starve ourselves. In it is an encouragement for fasting. And the Prophet ﷺ encouraged the youth to fast, right? And of course, he would encourage all people to fast, but he specified the youth in an addressing. He specified them with a nasiha, with an advice, and he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, he told them, right? مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمْ الْبَاءَ فَلْيَفْعَلْ, right? That whoever is amongst you is able to get married, then let him do so. And then if he's not, then let him fast. Right? فَإِنَّ الصَّوْمَ جُنَّةٌ. Indeed, sawm or fasting is a protection. Right? So, although the wording I mentioned earlier is there is weakness to it, the meaning is correct. So it's appropriate for us to learn about the importance of patience, the benefits of patience, the different types of patience there are that the Muslim can exercise. And then one of the beautiful things about this treatise, this risala, is that Shaykhul-Islām ibn Taymiyyah, he gives benefits and advices on how to, be patient and exercise more patience, and how to inculcate gratitude into yourself, right? Because the more thankful you are, right, the more you obviously your Īmān increases. Like Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu famously mentioned, he said, al-Īmānu nisfan. He said, faith is of two parts, nisfun shukr wa nisfu sabr. He said, one half is patience, and the other half is gratitude. And so, for this reason and many other reasons, Shaykhul-Islām Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayhi, he wrote this treatise, and it's a beautiful treatise. Wallahi, I'm not sure if it's translated in English, but if it's not translated in English, then it deserves to be translated in English. As a matter of fact, when I was in Medina, and my brothers and I, when we often faced difficulties, we would sit together and we would read this treatise, and it was really something that uplifted our hearts and reminded us about the beautiful ibadah of sabr, and that Allah Azza wa Jal sometimes puts us in trial and tribulations, not because He hates us, na'udhu-billah, but because He wants us to enact and manifest this beautiful act of worship, of patience, right? And so inshallah, this is what we're going to read, and this is hopefully what we're going to benefit from, inshallah ta'ala, 2 days a week, inshallah, during Ramadan. And I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make it a source of goodness and benefit for all of us. And inshallah, tomorrow, around 4:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will inshallah begin the reading of this beautiful treatise, قاعدة في الصبر, a principle or a foundation regarding patience, of Shaykhul-Islām Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless and preserve all of you, and may Allah Azza wa Jal make your fasting easy. May Allah Azza wa Jal make you all from those who stand and fast in this month of Ramadan. May Allah Azza wa Jal accept it from all of us. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu khairan. ونكتفي بهذا القدر وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والحمد لله رب العالمين.